how is everything going? I can't believe it's been over a year since we talked last.
I know, it's been a pretty packed year.
So what's been going on with you guys? I mean, how are things for you?
Things are great for me. I'm really happy to see like the communities kind of coming out and starting to have events and things like that. That's really cool. And NCSF was able to get out and really talk to a lot of people. So I think we're kind of energized.
Good.
How about you?
Doing great. I mean, Free the Kink is, I'm getting some kind of back. Can you hear that?
I can't hear that.
Okay, good. Free the Kink has been just growing. We're now almost 60,000 members across all of our communities. So we're really growing. Yeah. One of the things that we got going, we're putting on our first convention next April.
That's great.
It's going to be It's going to be in Las Vegas. It's a Littles conference for CGL folks. And so it's called Littles in Las Vegas.
That sounds great.
It's going to be so much fun. It's a Candyland theme.
Oh, well, how fun.
So it's going to be a lot of fun. Bunch of educators. I mean, we have a really large block, got some good keynote speakers. So let's talk about.
If you want to do like the Little Miss Littles or Little Mr. Littles contest, let me know, because you can do that. That's kind of open source.
That is so funny because we have something like that on the agenda.
Oh, do you really? Yep. That's fabulous. Yeah, I love doing that. I think it's a lot of fun to do.
And there's not a lot of representation, unfortunately, for the CGL community.
Yeah, there really isn't. But yeah, that's definitely true. To have kind of a title holder would actually be kind of cool. One of the first people that won the Little Miss and Mr. Littles contest went on to compete at IMSL.
Oh, cool.
So there is a precedent for it.
I love it. So we're excited about doing this month in March, trying to raise some funds for NCSF. So the whole thing will be anyone who signs up for the Kink Academy through that link, and we'll have it on our site. We're going to promote it like crazy. We have like 15 different classes we're doing live throughout the month in the groups to promote it. Our goal is to get 100 people to sign up.
Okay.
Which would result in about $3,000 a year for the NCSF. I know that's a drop in the bucket.
Oh no, that's not. That's a lot. That's actually, we have a very small budget. We're all volunteers, so every penny goes to pay for our advocacy efforts. So that would help us. $3,000 gets us to a professional conference where we can present and talk to professionals. Yeah, it's really important.
That would be really great. So just for those who don't know, let's introduce, obviously, you, Susan, let's introduce you. Let's introduce NCSF to everyone so they know exactly who you all are.
Okay. Well, I'm Susan Wright. I am the Executive Director for the National Coalition for Sexual Freedom. And NCSF is the advocacy group for the kink and consensual non-monogamy communities. That means we have been fighting for our rights for 26 years. Yay!
So, when they say they do mean the. There is nobody that does the kind of work that y'all are doing. There's nobody that puts the kind of effort that you guys do. And we need to this year needs to be the year of awareness for everything you guys got going on. Now, since the last time we spoke, it's been a year, what's been the big stride? What's happened? What's been the big win in the last year? Because I know you guys had a pretty good win last summer, right?
Right. Explicit prior permission for consent to kink, which is huge. It's hopefully going to get published this year by the American Law Institute in the revised Model Penal Code on Sexual Assault. So we've spent the past year really educating our own constituents, our own communities, the kink and consensual non-monogamy, polyamory, lifestyle swing communities about this, making sure to spread the word. And we've also, we created all kinds of infographics about consent that people can share on their social media. We participated in 51 events last year, either exhibiting, or presenting a webinar. So we're really getting the word out to our own folks, because it's really important for people to know, because even though it hasn't been published yet, so it hasn't really kind of gone mainstream yet, but it is being introduced in criminal court. If people call into question whether a BDSM act was consensual or not. So it's really important for us to get the word out so that people do the 5 things that you need to do to get explicit prior permission, so that in case, if your scene is called into question or your relationship, you can actually kind of present this and say, no, we were actually getting, true informed consent for what we were doing.
Can we talk a little bit about those 5 things? Is that okay to talk about yet?
Yeah, absolutely. It makes it easy when you can kind of think of it that way. Okay, 5 things to do. Here's what we got to do, right? And the first thing is you have to talk. You have to agree on what specific things. You have to opt in. Instead of just saying, oh, anything but, that doesn't work. You have to say, okay, a little spanking, a little hair pulling, and you also have to negotiate if there's going to be sexual contact. We're so good at negotiating the kink sometimes that we forget, we kind of treat the sexual contact like you would in more vanilla settings, but you can't do that, because if somebody's like bound or subject to use of force, you can coerce somebody into doing stuff, or end up just doing it to them, right? When they're tied up, for example. So yeah, you have to talk about it. You have to do this foreplay where you really talk about what it is that you want to do before you start. That's number 1. The second thing is you have to have a way to stop at any time. And this is really cool. This is our safe word or our safe signal, actually in the model penal code on sexual assault, which is super cool. So everybody needs a safe word. Even people who I think are doing consensual non-monogamy, it's a really great way to kind of make sure that your partners know if you're feeling safe or not, or if you need to stop or not. And then the third thing is, if you're going to do any kind of role play resistance, I mean, like we love to role play, right? So if you're gonna have a tantrum, if you're gonna say, no, stop, don't do that, you need to actually talk about that beforehand. Just so that's on the record, basically, and you can do this verbally or in writing and say, I really like to protest when I play, but my safe word is pineapple, right? And this goes for consensual non-consent as well. There's kind of some misconception out there that if you're doing consensual non-consent, you can't safe word. That is not at all true. Consensual non-consent was never meant to remove that, escape hatch or exit strategy. I mean, everybody needs an exit strategy. Everybody needs to be able to stop something if something's going wrong. And so even consensual non-consent, you need a safe word.
No matter what, we all have the right to opt out at any time.
Yeah, it's not a roller coaster. We're not getting on it. And legally, that's what it is. Sex is not a roller coaster. Sex, you can stop any kind of erotic activity, and especially if it involves the use of force or restraint, you have to be able to stop at any time, right?
Yeah.
And then the last 2 things are kind of conditions that need to be met. You have to be of sound mind. That means you can't be drunk or, having a serious mental health issue, and everybody involved needs to be aware. It's not just on one or the other. And then the last thing is you can't seriously physically injure somebody, even if you have consent. There are lines that the law won't let you cross, and serious injury is kind of, permanent, something that lasts, or something that could cause a risk of death. So this covers a lot of BDSM acts that were criminalized by case law. Things like dripping hot wax on people and playing with a riding crop. Okay, so all of that is decriminalized, but there's still things that it doesn't cover, like branding, because that leaves a permanent mark. And we're seeing that's for the safety of society, right? We see cults out there that are branding people, and you want to protect the vulnerable among us. And also erotic choking, it doesn't really cover because of the risk of health issues, psychological issues, and death. It's the riskiest thing that people can do with each other, and it's just not legally covered by explicit.
That's really good information to have, because you think there's a lot of things that we do in the community that I mean, let's face it. Many of us love breath play. Many of us love, some choking. Hillary and I, we do some scarification. So those are all things that you have to be, that's good to think about because those aren't covered. You're not going to be protected there.
Right. So you need to make sure that you have you're going into that aware, everybody, and it's not to be done lightly because, like you said, scarification, that's something that you're thinking about. That's something that it's a journey towards. It's not just what something you're introducing with casual play partners. And unfortunately with erotic choking, we're seeing it's kind of run rife. And Debbie Herbernick did a study where she found almost half of college students at her university said that they had been erotically choked. And half of those, it was completely non-consensual. They'd never even discussed this. Somebody's just suddenly grabbing their throat. And it's extremely risky behavior. I mean, that's where we see people dying.
Yeah, there's unfortunately people don't. I mean, they see something in a movie or a show, and they're like, "Ooh," or they read about it online. But the truth is, I mean, there is so much education that goes into erotic choking. I mean, it doesn't take hardly any pressure to crack that hyoid bone. There's so much that goes on, and especially younger people or people who are just getting in a lifestyle. I mean, without the education, you're going to hurt somebody, and that's what we try at Free the Kink. We're all about education and empowerment.
And role play is great. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's what you're seeing a lot in porn is role play. They're not being choked. Just having a hand on your neck without any kind of pressure can really put you in that kind of erotic headspace. Or having your dom tell you, hold your breath, right? Yeah. And then you're obeying that order. There's ways that you can play with this that aren't that risky.
Yeah, and we're trying to push the word. I mean, we're huge supporters of the adult entertainment industry, but we're trying to push that adult entertainment is just that. It's entertainment. It's not education. You can use it to inspire some cool things you want to try, but you need to do the homework and follow up on the education.
Right, absolutely. I think people just need to be aware of that. Unfortunately, there's not really a lot of great sex education out there. The kink community is one of the places where you can get that. So I just applaud all organizers who are out there giving their time and their effort to educate other adults who really just can't get this any other place.
Absolutely. So on those 5 things, and I mean, should we have it in writing with everyone's signatures and approvals so there's something to take if we ever do get into trouble? I don't do pickup play, and I haven't for many, many years, just because I know the risk to me personally and liability wise involved. I just don't do pickup play. I mean, I'm lucky to have a beautiful, beautiful slave who's been with me for 20 years. We've been able to experience everything together. So I avoid pickup play at all costs. But for people who do want to do that in the negotiations, would it be a good idea to have it all written out in signatures?
It's a good idea to, if it's pickup play, to have things in writing, because some people absorb information differently. So even if you verbally negotiate with somebody, you can text them and say, okay, this is my understanding, right? This is what's going to happen. So I think even just for cultural differences and making sure meanings of words are understood, because we do see miscommunications and accidents happen that cause a consent violation. And even though it might have been an accident, it can still cause trauma. So I'm all for like negotiation sheets. I think there's a way to do that simpler. Like NCSF suggests that you think about like who, what, where, when, why, and how. And you kind of just craft your either texting or your discussion. And certainly if you're doing pickup play, if you've negotiated like in the weeks prior to an event, you got to recap that right beforehand, because a lot of people who do pickup play, they do a lot of it. And so even if they played with you before, they might not remember certain limits, right?
That's so important. That's such a good point, because that's so important, in this, because over a week's time, who knows? And then maybe your feelings change. It's just really important. And you forgot we talked about this. And so, I mean, there's always that whole argument in the community about old guard versus TNG. And one of the things I don't, whether that exists or not, one of the things I like about the new generation is, man, they are really questioning everything. And I love that. And my great friend, Yeshua from the House of Damon, he's got me a ton of education around this. And it's just the fact that we are not looking at it the same anymore gives us a lot of hope for the future, because they don't, this upcoming generation doesn't let anything slide by. And that's what we need: strong monitoring and hold people accountable when they mess up.
Yeah, I think it's really important. It used to be, I mean, I'm kind of the middle-aged guard, so I kind of period, in the 90s, I came up in the community, and it used to be the old guard did hold each other accountable. You know what I mean? These leather houses were not top-down modeled where one person is telling everybody else what to do. It was really kind of a brotherhood, a sisterhood, where you really kept each other accountable for what was happening, because we really had no other way to do that, right? And then kind of the explosion of kink, especially after 50 Shades of Grey, when just everybody started doing it. I mean, there's prevalent surveys now that say up to 30% of adults in America like to spank each other during sex.
Oh, yeah.
20% like bondage. This is millions of people now. That's just our community. We're just like one little tip of the iceberg that's coming out of all these people who are doing this.
It's kind of funny too, because I still believe there's so many people in those polls that still won't admit to what they like. I think the number's way higher, right?
That's a good point. The 20% who will say, because really, when we look at our own surveys, we ask, are you closeted? Are you out to family? Are you out to friends? And consistently, it's been 70 to 80% say they're not out to certain people, and some are not even out to their own partners, which is so sad when you think about that the stigma is still so strong. And we're hoping that getting things like explicit prior permission into the Model Penal Code on sexual assault, that will lessen the stigma, and that'll lessen the discrimination, and hopefully people won't have to be so shameful about what their urges and their desires are.
Yeah, it's for us, it's really sad, because we see, I mean, every week somebody's on one of our walls, saying, probably 10 times a week, saying, we love this so much, but we're afraid to talk to our husband or our wife or our partner about this. And that's the one person you should be able to be the most secure and safe with is the one because you don't want to be judged. And it really is sad, because every human has desires, has needs, wants to try new things. And I always tell people this: look, the Kinky Smurf and I have been together 20 years, and I desire her today more than I've ever desired her. And when I first met her, I didn't look across the room at her and say, "Ooh, I can't wait to manage a checkbook with her." It was, "Oh my God, she's so beautiful," hot, whatever. And that passion is still there, because it doesn't matter what we want or try, even if the other partner doesn't want to, we feel okay to ask or talk about it. And that's the most important part.
I think so. I think people don't realize how much actually talking about kind of your deepest desires really opens up the doorway to talk about anything, and to feel that safety and to feel that intimacy and that trust. I've been with my husband for 29 years, and we've had a lot of experiences together as well as apart, but we've got that support system because we're honest with each other. And I would like to see that for everyone. And that's one reason why NCSF fights so hard, because we hear these stories and we see people who don't have to feel that shame, but society inflicts it on us. I mean, NCSF had to fight to get the APA to remove this as a mental illness in 2013. I mean, we're only a decade away from that, right? But now a lot of the mental health industry really supports people who are kinky in terms of understanding that it's not something gone awry. This is perfectly natural. This is just, everybody's sexuality is like a fingerprint. It is completely unique.
It's been going on since the beginning of time. And so, speaking of mental health, I want to thank you again for the CAP professionals. We started this thing called Wellness Wednesdays in the groups. So where every Wednesday is dedicated to mental health, and we just started doing interviews with CAP professionals to bring more resource and education to the group. So that's such a wonderful just resource for people to have. There's so many people in there that are willing to help with all kinds of things.
Oh, they are amazing. Our CAP professionals They are so helpful. We've got almost 3,000 professionals signed up on that database, and last year 33,000 people searched the database. It's the most visited thing on NCSF, and it's clearly needed, which is one reason why we also expanded it. So it's not just mental health professionals. We have doctors, which we want to do more outreach. We have attorneys, which again, we want to do more outreach, get more professionals on. But we also have things like spiritual advisors and mediators. I mean, there's such a need for mediation in our communities now. And to have these professionals take the time and fight the stigma to be on our CAP list, because it comes up in a Google search. So these are professionals that have really made the commitment. And I feel like that's, they're part of our coalition. They're also fighting for our rights.
They sure are. And I just had a conversation with Devin Stone yesterday, and it's just amazing at 2023 how we're still fighting mental health stigma, and that people don't realize if we can have good mental health, the better the mental health, the better the overall health of people. And so, I'm not a therapist. I don't understand a lot of it. Hell, I'm still going through. I'm still trying to figure it out like everybody else. But every person that I've talked to from your CAP so far, I cannot tell you how helpful they've been. Even ones who don't have time to do the interview, send me resources. Here, give this to your people. Give this to your people.
Yeah,
and they're not asking for anything in return.
Yeah, because when people come to us for our direct services, our incident reporting and response, sometimes they've suffered a consent violation. We go through our CAP and we send them the links so that they can see, is there somebody in here that I want to actually talk to? If they're having a civil issue, we send them the links to the attorneys. So it's just super helpful for us as well to do our work, to have these professionals willing to help our folks.
So we're so grateful that you guys put that together. So let's talk about this year. What is NCF? What's the big things on the agenda for this year?
Well, we're going to definitely do more research. We had 3 papers published last year based on our consent survey 2020, which is great. We're getting the word out about what our community attitudes and standards are when it comes to consent, right? And what's actually happening. And we are working on 2 new surveys. One for the CAP professionals. We wanted to find out kind of what they think is needed to be considered kink or polyamory aware, so that we can help educate other professionals. So we're going to survey our own CAP professionals. We might even survey some professionals who are not on our CAP list to kind of do a comparison. And we'll probably publish papers out of that, as well as using it to create more programs so that we can do more education and help folks. And along that same line, we're going to do another constituency survey. We're going to put it out to everybody and find out, what do you need? Are groups having trouble with business services or dealing with consent violations? Or, do individuals need help more with something like that institutional discrimination that was happening with child custody? That, yes. Who would have thought, we had to track it down. There was hundreds of parents losing their kids, and it turns out that they were reading the APA diagnostic manual, and it said, oh, these people might have another paraphilia. That means they might have pedophilia. And they were immediately taking the kids away. And so we had to kind of, instead of going to a family court, we went to the APA and we dealt with it there. So this, being a grassroots organization, we really are responsive to what our folks need, and we need to hear from you. So if you see those come out, get them to everybody in your list, because we want to hear from them, because every person who speaks up really has an effect on moving forward.
When those come out, we'll make sure we get it to everyone at Free the King for sure. I know it really is crazy that we're still doing that. There's certain places I won't even go anymore. There's certain states I'm not even going to. I'm just going to stay out west where I'm welcome.
So sad though how state mistakes become, and I think that's one reason why it's important that we really put this out. We're doing a lot of social media work. Instagram, we created a TikTok channel just so we can make sure and reach. Like you were talking about, the generation coming up is really super important. So we have influencers. A lot of swing influencers are putting out a lot of consent videos for us and for them, the Swinger Society and Swing Nation. it's absolutely fascinating to see the discussions that are happening on social media. So we've really tried to engage in that as well. Like yesterday was Metaphor Day.
Yes, I'm really glad to hear you're on TikTok. So, because there is some amazing up and coming new generation Kinksters on TikTok who are doing some really fantastic things. You know, I feel sorry for them because like every damn social media outlet, every 5 minutes, they're trying to get their accounts closed. But we'll support them every chance we get. So any major events that you guys are going to be at this year?
We are scheduling events out right now. We have like about 20 that we're going to be at so far. I know we some of them are one-off webinars. So if a group wants to have us come and give a got consent webinar, we're glad to do that. We also are going to be attending different events, South Plains. We're going to be at Kinky College. We're going to be at the APA conference again. I know it's really interesting because this is a big like convention hall, right? Hundreds of booths, and NCSF is the only group there talking about adult sexuality. And it's fascinating because like we'll look around and see all the other booths, and we've got like people standing 3D, wanting to ask us questions, wanting to get resources from us. The demand is so huge. So even though it's quite inexpensive, because like they do like, you know, they get drug companies to pay tens of thousands of dollars to be featured, you know what I mean? But it's important for us. So we send volunteers and we do the thing, and it's really great, the outreach that we do. So definitely you can check on our calendar. Our calendar is amazing on our website. We've got all of it listed that's public. A lot of things that are for an individual group, we won't publicize publicly because they want their own members to come. But we also have awareness days, which are really great. Like we just had International Fetish Day that like shot through the roof. Everybody was excited about that. And then of course, Metamor Day on the 28th yesterday. And so we also have Awareness Month. We like to highlight marginalized communities. Like we just finished celebrating Black History Month with a series of videos with mental health professionals who help with kink and consensual non-monogamy who are BIPOC, right? So talking about it from that aspect. This month is Women in Polyamory. So we try to, you know, focus on a certain segment that may not get as much attention. And April's like Neurodiversity Awareness Month. And we have tons of resources on our Amplify Voices about that for how events can be more accessible, how presenters can be more accessible, things like anti-harassment policies. So groups that want to work more on their DEI initiative can do that.
Very cool. Okay, I'll make sure that we start sharing that in the group every month. So, because I want to make sure people have access to those resources. So that's awesome. You guys got a lot of events coming up, a lot going on. You know, Littles in Las Vegas is April of 2024. Put it on your calendar. You guys get a free booth, all your stuff. You don't have to worry about paying to be there. We just want to spread the word. So, anything else that you want? Oh, there is another question. For those who don't, maybe there's a lot of our community who are already on Kink Academy, or they don't want to sign up for it. They can support you directly. They can go to the website and directly donate. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. You can go and either donate. You can become an individual member for $25. That way, you're a member of our coalition. And groups and businesses can join either as a coalition partner or as a supporting member. It's really important that we kind of network our communities together. So we'd love having you as a member group. That would be fabulous.
We'll go do that today.
That's great. Yeah, and you know, we can always waive the membership fee if your group needs it. No questions asked, because we don't want to have any kind of barrier to join.
Sure. Yeah, but we want to support. Our whole thing is supporting. You're the only organization doing what you're doing for us, and we need the protection out there. So thank you so much. I will keep you updated through the month to see how this goes. I'm hoping, like I said, we want to do 100. You know, come on, FTK, let's do 500, whatever we can to help. If you can't or don't want to join the Kink Academy, please go directly to NCSF. We'll put all the links, give something, donate something. I mean, you know, even $10 a month is something that will help.
Absolutely. And put, you know, Free the Kink in there and we'll know it came from you.
Susan, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I know how busy you are. If there's anything ever that we can do for you, that information you need pushed out, you know, I mean, our doors are always open to you guys for anything.
Great. Well, thank you so much for having this talk with me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye.